So we'll go ahead and get started. I just wanted to thank you all for joining us on this Friday's CAD Chat. My name is Jeremy Colvin. I'm an application engineer with Progression Technologies. Our subject matter today is a new product that's coming out on the market from SolidWorks. In general, I'm going to concentrate a little bit on the generalities for today and how we can improve our collaboration for our conceptual design practices and processes. A little bit of focus on the SolidWorks Conceptual Designer. And I'll show you that tool in just a little bit. For now, though, I just wanted to introduce you to a little bit of what we're talking about. For today's discussions, I want to note for you that there is a webinar control panel. I'm sure you've noticed it. Some of you have already used it. There is an orange arrow that you can use to collapse that down to the side and make it more visible as far as the presentation goes for you. So feel free to please collapse that down to the side and give yourself plenty of space to see the presentation today. So as we start to, let me go back one here. As we get into discussing mechanical design conceptual, you'll see the typical design process, as we've just seen and discussed it many, many times over the years, is to have that conceptual design discussions. They often are done on whiteboards, dry boards, blackboards, things like that, paper, napkins, things like this. And that process can take actually a good amount of time in the early stages. Then we move on into the detailed designing process where we might actually move into a 3D modeling software package like SolidWorks, get some detailed models done, create some drawings, and get that out to fabrication, sheet shops, and so on. And then finally the operations where they take and consume all that information to build the parts and models and put the assemblies together and so on, and then put things in the field. What we see and discuss in the realm of mechanical conceptual design is typically the mechanical conceptual process has 31% of that total project time spent on the conceptual process. Again, this is a lot of time spent in the early stages, be it on napkins, dry boards, and maybe 2D sketches, conceptual 2D sketches, and things like that. And generally, on average, there's 6 conceptual and then 4 design iterations per project. When we talk about that amount of time spent on the iterations done of the conceptual process, that's 50% of the time that can be spent in the design iterations over the conceptual. Also, there's a 75% or 3 out of 4 project engineers generally spend time in some way, get involved, shall we say, in that conceptual process design sequence. So whether they're pulled in by their colleagues to take part in it, just to get some inputs and collaborate a little bit on the design conceptual process, or whether they're actually a part of the team, there's a lot of time spent in the early stages, a lot of man hours spent trying to get that conceptual design off the ground. Finally, 90% of the customers that we talk about, or that SolidWorks is going to talk to, collaborate during this conceptual process. Again, I'm sure some of you have even taken part in many of these design review meetings and things of that nature. Many meetings, I'm sure, over the time spent on a project. When you look at 90% of the time spent in doing collaborative type functions, this could be input from customers as well, or suppliers. Input from colleagues is very common, but we might get those suppliers and customers involved too. So when you consider the big picture, there is typically a lot of collaboration going on, and there's no real central design focus collaborative environment. Many times emails are involved, phone calls, things like that, face-to-face meetings. So generally speaking, we want to try and bring that all together and give ourselves kind of overcome some of those difficulties of capturing the ideas, to manage the multiple concepts, also just to have that nice collaborative and environment where we can communicate as a community when you consider customers, suppliers, vendors, things of that nature, and ourselves, our company, is really just a part of a community. We want to have a nice environment, more centrally focused environment for that process. So what I wanted to kind of introduce you to was the centrally focused, if you will, application for that type of environment, the 3D Experience platform. Now, I brought up the compass here, and if we take a look, there's a few quadrants, and I'll just kind of introduce you to a few of these: information, intelligence, applications. Now, on the information quadrant, what you're going to see is the option to have the intelligent quadrant for the dashboards to connect people with the data and solutions and ideas. So that's a lot of the information, shall we say, the community-based applications, where you can join your communities, where you can take part in the blogs, add ideas, add material, upload files, things like that to the community. Excuse me. As we move into the social collaborative, again, looking more at the swim interface and spaces where we see the files themselves and can access that data directly through those applications. Then we get into the 3D modeling apps, and the concentration today is on Conceptual Designer, but again, there's others for simulation purposes and the like. You might have heard of Industrial Designer as well, so that's also going to be showing up in that quadrant. And finally, you see the content and simulation apps that you'll find here on that bottom quadrant. Simulia, product design simulation software, is going to be found there in that quadrant. So this is the IFWE compass that you might see frequently when we talk about the 3D experience, the Dassault systems environment, and so on. So SOLIDWORKS Conceptual Designer. It's a new, and we like to say complementary, concept design tool. You're not required to use it by any means. It's entirely up to a company to get involved. So many companies are diving in to this new tool to complement their design tools and complement their design experiences. Again, conceptually, when we talk about going back to that point of 31% of the time being spent in conceptual design, this is a great tool on the early stages to get that community-based development going on. Quickly put together a concept and capture concepts digitally. You can easily create 2D and 3D layouts and test mechanisms easily in this environment. You can collect ideas for use now or in the future because, again, it's capturing all of this information and easily retrieved later on as you're going through the processes, even into the design stage where you get into the 3D modeling packages like SOLIDWORKS and the like. It's really nice because it's pretty intuitive interface, nice workflow concepts. When you talk about just going through the blogs and you see someone making a comment, you can quickly jump into the Conceptual Designer and try out that experience for yourself or take a look at what they've done. So you have that real nice behavior going on where you're working together and collaborating in almost real time, really, and in some cases you can do it in real time. There's a chat environment where you can actually bring up a chat window to discuss with your colleagues the design process. So you can really design without product structure as well. That's the backbone using the Dassault systems environment, where you don't have so much the structured assembly environment components to features and features to sketches and the like. It's a little more free, a little more open. And when you talk about that social interface, again, the harness is the collective intelligence of the entire company, perhaps. Whoever you invite to the community can take part and participate. As you create these communities to gather all the stakeholders together, and we talk about stakeholders to get the feedback from them, we are oftentimes talking about the customer, our end customer. Also, though, it should be noted, again, you got suppliers, vendors, and so on that take part in these, so you don't want to leave them out by any means. Make the information decisions faster. You can make those decisions quicker because you can easily collaborate on it in real time, see the changes that are going on, and just immediately jump right into the design phase as all those decisions are made from the social aspect in the blogs and the like, as you collaborate together. It should be noted very quickly that 3D Experience is a web interface and it's web connected. So it's going to be always online. Design data is always up to date as well. So as changes are made and updated, it's always going back to the cloud. So it's available to you wherever you go, as long as you're connected. But there is an opportunity to work on files offline. That's been a nice enhancement to Conceptual Designer. Zero overhead data management, because again, it's keeping track of the changes you make, and you have an opportunity to what's called archive and make a design change, if you will, go off in a different direction, and it keeps all the history, so you can always go back to a previous design if you wish. And that's all pretty much handled throughout. You don't have to worry. Collaborate on designs in real time, as we've been talking about. So real quick, let's just have a look at Conceptual Designer. First, let me bring up the 3D Experience platform here for a second. I'll bring that up here. And what you'll see is you'll log in, and as you log into your dashboard, you have different communities you might have been invited to, and you can switch to those different communities really easily. As you work in those communities, you'll see different blog postings. You can also add widgets for RSS feeds, so you can get announcements from either the company, local, or from here. I've got a few SolidWorks bulletins coming up here. The swim community, you can see here communities that I'm a member of. I can add additional communities and create additional communities if I have the rights to do so. Do that through here if I wish. As I click on that community, I can see the information from that community, blog posts, and so on. And go ahead and make that more full screen. If you click on that, it'll take you to the actual blog post. And so you can easily, through this dashboard, navigate, and it's pretty intuitive. Most people working in Yahoo and Google and so on find it very comfortable working in these environments because they're so used to working in the web interfaces these days. But the real tools come into play when you click on the compass up here in the upper left-hand corner. As I click on play, it gives me access to the quadrants that we were just talking about. You can see here where we have the information quadrant here. I can get to the applications for information intelligent applications here, the dashboards and so on. Here's where I can add additional widgets. And it's really just a very simple way of adding web page readers, so I can just drag a widget and drop it on my dashboard. Then I just configure what URL I want it to read. So you can see it's really simple, intuitive interface to build these dashboards up for yourself. And these are generally your dashboards. So if you're in charge, shall we say, or if your role is to create these dashboards, you can set them up as well for the community, and then the users can create their own dashboards here. They have personalized dashboards they can create. The quadrant down here, again, as we move on, we can see here this is the social and immediate aspects where you can collaborate through the SWIB interfaces and so on. See the news and so on. Some different applications there. This over here on the far left is the 3D quadrant. Again, this is where we have access to the tools such as Conceptual Designer, Draft Site, and so on. And then finally down below is the simulation. So we see the content simulation where we have the structural validations, material definitions, and so on. But let me go ahead and start up the Conceptual Designer, and what you'll see, I actually have it already started up down here. Let me go ahead and start that up over here. There it is. So the Conceptual Designer, here it is. What you'll see is a simple interface. Some of it might look fairly familiar. Many of the tools, here I'm just using my mouse to zoom in, zoom out, rotate, and so on. Right-click gives you access to tools that you might need to use. You can right-click on the components, shall we say, over on the tree structure, and again you can hide, show, and so on. And just to give you, I guess, some background here, some of you might see this as a pretty familiar assembly. I did open this up from the Essentials training lesson. This is the U-joint assembly, and the reason I wanted to open that up was to highlight again some nice enhancements. More interactivity, shall we say, between conceptual design and SolidWorks. Having opened this up from SolidWorks, I can see when I go to select the yoke mail component, I see an opportunity to actually open that component. As I select the open component here, this opens it up into a new tab within the Conceptual Designer interface. As I look into the component itself, you'll see there is a feature called Imported Model. And that's the nice enhancement these days in 2015X. We can actually right-click on that, and as we see down here, there's an option to edit in SolidWorks. And by selecting that, as you might guess, oh, it's in the background, let me bring it up here, there we go. It actually opens the component in SolidWorks where we see the full feature-rich nature of the model itself. So the benefit of this, I suppose, just to give you a full demonstration, is say we want to put a hole here in this plate in the bracket. We can pretty easily open that in SolidWorks, again going to our imported model. And being back in SolidWorks, we can quickly open a new sketch, just go ahead and draw a center line across here. And I'm not trying to demonstrate SolidWorks by any means, but I just want to give you an idea how this works. Going from one application to the next. Go ahead and just put a quick dimension on that. And we'll just say extrude cut. We'll just say up to next. Okay, so I can close and save that part in SolidWorks. Back here in Conceptual Designer, what I would want to do is go ahead and use this option to import the model once again. So I'll just select that. It knows where the models come from, so I'll just go ahead and say OK to that. And we should see that simply re-import and update. So in this case, what we can see is the opportunity to update these parts in the conceptual phase if we already have those models or if we have a team working on these models. But again, this is coming from an aspect where we have an existing design that we may be conceptually changing as well. Where conceptual design comes into play is when we want to create pretty much from scratch just 2D layouts oftentimes. So on the plane here, I'll just open a sketch, and down below you'll see the different tools in the toolbar where I can go ahead and select I want to create a slot. I'll just create a quick slot here, very intuitive, and I can enter the dimension right away, really quick and simple. And I can continue on sketching some more. And it's already using that size that I already defined. So you can see it's capturing constraints. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. I don't have the panel to see the audience view, but hopefully I'm not going too fast. Just double check the panel to see if anybody's yelling at me. Okay. Don't see anybody yelling at me just now. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and go back. So as you can see, it's captured constraints. I can see as I move the geometries and so on. I can see also there's other tools, and this is not really a full demonstration by any means, but I wanted to point out some of the tools that you have available to you that you can see here stretching out. And again, just right-clicking, you can see the tools available. If you want to add dimension, you can simply select that. Add the dimension to it. We'll make that 1,000 there, and we can go ahead and make that let's make it 200. Shorten that up a little bit, and as we make these changes to it, again, you can select the geometry, and some of you might see familiar things available to us. As we select geometries, you can see the relations, horizontals, verticals, perpendiculars. You can also see the angle there. Just clicking on that, I can make that 200 and turn that into a dimension right away. Without having to add a dimension, it showed me that dimension. So you can make this a driven or driving dimension pretty quickly and easily. By switching this back and forth between driven or driving, you can see here I can simply switch that back and have it now driving that dimension. Pretty intuitive, I would say, interfaces available to us. As I select a right-click, shall I say, on that component, you can see the different options to change the color and so on. Selecting on that, you can see it's now in here as two different sketches, shall we say, two different entities inside the one sketch. And as I right-click on that one, we can see we can suppress or unsuppress these individual entities as well. This gives us an opportunity to work with this conceptual design pretty easily as we go through these toolbars down at the bottom. I guess I just want to be sure to point out some of the other things where we can see the features available to us, where we have the extrudes, we have revolves, sweeps, you can enter springs and so on. So there's a lot of nice simple tools that we're pretty familiar with, and they're enhancing this typically on every release, adding more and more functionality. So selecting the extrude cut and just picking on this feature there, you can see it's going to extrude that. And I can grab that part as well, just to make that more complete. The interface you see on the extrudes up here is where we can actually select solid, thin, or surface options. We can see the options to select it blindly or mid-plane or up to geometry, up to other geometries in the model. We can flip direction, of course, or as some of you know in SolidWorks as well, you can just grab and you get the rulers available to us up here on the screen. So I'll do that real quick, and I'll go ahead and extrude again. And you can see the sketch there. Go ahead and extrude that again. And so we have these two different extrudes. As you're going through and you're building these out, there's other tools to convert to direct edit, so we can just grab faces and start modeling and changing those quickly and easily. So there's a bunch of tools here, and as we go to towards the end, just want to point out you have the Assembly tab, Motion tabs, the View tab, Management tools, where we need to manage and upload files, update the content, and so on, and then other tools for just color. You can see here there's different options for measure tools, weights, mass properties, things like that. So there's a lot of nice, simple, intuitive interfaces. But when we talk about collaboration, going back to the topic at hand here again, just close this, don't need to save it. When we talk about collaboration again, it's over here on the right side, and I need to move this down and out of the way a little bit. There we go. You'll see that it has a collaborative environment for the community, and if I wanted to do, I can easily click the blog option here, and perhaps I want to add a blog, so I'll just click on the create blog post. I'll just title this my new joint design, and we'll enter a little comment. And in this case, we'll just take a little screenshot of that little design right there to put that into our little blog post. And we can add additional comments here, of course. Something of that nature. And then we just go ahead and say publish. There's categories, options we can add down below. So we can publish that to our community. And again, this is immediately visible to those who we've invited to the community, participate in the community. They can make their comments, and we can help drive that design change pretty easily all through the little blog posts. And when we talk about media, that's typically videos, zip files, documents, things like that that might be added to our community. Questions that people ask through iQuestions are going to be posted here. You can see here, you can search for any questions that might have been previously asked. And I think some of you might be familiar with wikis. And the wiki is something you can add to if you have rights. You can add to the wiki and help develop documentation on the fly through all of that as well. So there's a really nice interface within our conceptual design environment that goes right back to that 3D experience, environment here. So we can go ahead and work inside both and still develop and work with all of that environment as we need to. So that, I think, is just trying to give you the big picture of how the 3D experience works and how it incorporates not just Conceptual Designer and other products. It's a much broader aspect when you consider the collaborative environment, taking part and participating in the communities, and so on. So it's important that I think everybody kind of just get an understanding or background of what the 3D experience is, and again, where all these tools fit into the 3D experience at large. The nice thing is that as you grow, maybe you start incorporating more of the tools, more of the design tools as well. Simulation can be incorporated later on, and it just adds to and becomes available to you inside your environment, your community, and your 3D experience. And I think that kind of wraps it up. I just wanted to introduce you to many of you to this environment. There we go. Let me just go back to the slides for a second and point out that SolidWorks always strives to develop nice intuitive solutions. You've seen a nice transition to a much more community-based environment within the organization, within the design process. Support and success is what the goal is. So hopefully you've gotten a nice background. The opportunity to incorporate this 3D experience and conceptual design is available today. I won't bring up pricing, but I will say it's an annual purchase. It's roughly half the cost of SolidWorks as of now. I'll say that. And it's, again, community-based. So you can invite others to participate either as contributors, where they don't really do much design work, but they contribute to the community with the design process as far as comments and so on, or you can be the actual designers working within the environment and modeling geometry and so on. And I can see some folks maybe have posted a question. Let me see if I can bring that up here real quick. I'm trying to see if I can see the question. Hold on just a second. Here we go. Yes, the webinar is going to be recorded and posted soon. The question came up there, will this be recorded? Yes, it will be recorded and posted soon. Are there any other questions that I can try and address real quick on the 3D experience or conceptual design? Okay. Let me go ahead and just simply point out, again, my name is Jeremy Colvin, Application Engineer from Progression Technologies. There's my phone number there. If you'd like, you can call extension 2 as well for tech support. If you'd like to have more information and demos, perhaps call our sales department, extension 1 there at the 877 number. Also, if you want to just email us, feel free to email sales@progressiontech.com. I would just point out that upcoming events, some more webinars that are coming up, Friday, April 3rd. We've got a nice Streamlining Your Quality Control with SOLIDWORKS Inspection. And then on April 10th, there's going to be some more information on routing, some nice basics on SOLIDWORKS routing. So I encourage you all to perhaps mark your calendars for those events. Just very quickly, sure, William, you can feel free to contact a sales rep from Progression if you just want to email sales@progressiontech.com or give us a call and we'll get somebody in touch. We can definitely sit down with you, more detailed discussions. Thanks for the question, William. Any other questions just very quickly before we wrap it up? I don't see any more coming in. Nope, there's one. Oh, thanks, William. I appreciate it. William's thanking us for the webinars. We appreciate you all attending very much and taking time out of your week. I know it's just, we try to keep it really short to half an hour because time is of the essence, and Fridays are always when you're trying to wrap things up for the weekend. So we do appreciate you all taking the time to attend these, and hopefully get you some more information out there. Information is key. So thanks again for everybody attending today. Hope you all have a great weekend. Be safe.